Welcome back. This is the Truth Morning Devotion on Truth FM. We can go into a conversation this morning. I get the pleasure for welcome Josephine Gold, the British High Commissioner to Sierra Leone. We can talk about the UK support to the government and people of this country. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure having you. How's the body?
Fine.
How have you been enjoying Sierra Leone since you came?
Yeah, no, it's great. I've been here for just over 1 year. Yeah. So nearly a year and a half.
You don't sabi all side, you don't go. I see Yamasara and others don't take you around plenty places.
Indeed, yeah. No, I think I've been 14 districts, so I've got most of them, and I need to just reach the last ones next year.
Inshallah, but God willing, you'll get there. But what's your impression of this country? You know, I'm sure you've traveled to 14, and you've been to places where some Sierra Leoneans who born in Freetown haven't been to other places. But what's your impression about this country?
It's a beautiful country, and it's full of opportunities, I think. So, yeah, I keep discovering new things. Last night we had a film screening with Fode Dumbuya Labrum, who is a fashion designer working in London, obviously, but he's Sierra Leone origins. And we had lots of the creative talent of Sierra Leone there. And it's amazing to see all the work that everyone's doing with the artists, photographers, film producing, all sorts of things.
What the potential?
Huge. I think the huge potential. I mean, for a fairly small country, it's just amazing the amount of talent you come across.
Yeah. Let's look at, your work here generally, as the British High Commissioner. I'm sure it's basically connecting the UK government with the government of Sierra Leone, people to people, government to government, supporting private sector, governance, healthcare, and all of it. How has the British government, the UK government, been supporting Sierra Leone in different areas, say human capital development, education, healthcare, women? What has been the support, the package?
So we've done many different things and a lot of things over the years. Obviously, the UK-Sierra Leone relationship is really deep and has been around for a long time. Those ties are really strong. So some of the things we've been doing, I think some of the things which are really exciting, this year we had the most number of Sierra Leonean scholars going on our Chevening Scholarship Program. So that's students going to go and study for a master's degree in the UK. And we get an allocation every year, and then we have many more applicants than we have places, but because the applications were so strong, we managed to get additional places for Sierra Leone. So that's one of our kind of fundamental things, trying to help those higher education links. But we've also been working forever since in sort of basic education, I think we've been really proud of being able to work together with the government to get more girls to stay in school and ensuring schools are safe places, particularly for girls. So some clubs helping to educate the sort of girls and the boys about how to sort of protect them, and it means that girls can go to school safely and finish their schooling.
And healthcare as well. I understand you've been supporting the electrification of health facilities across.
So we've just finished doing 17 of the major hospitals across the country, and we've just got the last one in Koidu that we're working on, so hopefully that's going to be finished in the next couple of months. And those have given solar energy to all of the hospitals now, so we've got 24/7 electricity, and in the wards and particularly in the operating theatres. So it just makes life so much easier for all the nurses and the doctors working there, and it just means that they can do their jobs to the best of their ability to look after their patients.
Talking about women and girls, what could be your assessment or with your intervention in supporting women and girls in the country? I know you've been very much concerned about especially the issue of the Child Rights Act and the issue of FGM. It concerns as well, how do we protect our girls mostly in communities? What has been your position with regards to the new Child Rights Act that we have presently in protecting especially girls?
So here you've got a really dynamic civil society sector working on kind of gender issues. So we work with a lot of those organisations, and often our approach is just to kind of support them to do whatever their priorities are, because they know best what are the priorities and how they can work with society. The UK as a country, we are strongly against FGM. It's illegal in the UK. It's illegal. We will prosecute people who take their children abroad and they bring them back to the UK if they've put them through FGM. So we take a very strong stance against that domestically. I mean, obviously, Sierra Leone is a sovereign country. Your parliament debated the law. I think it was disappointing that there seemed to be a lot of support for taking a stronger line on it, but I mean, this is the parliamentarians are elected and are there to take these decisions. So you've got to make these are sort of social changes or social issues for the country to decide. I think we're going to watch with interest how the government responds to the ECOWAS ruling on FGM. So there is it's an ongoing debate. I think there's some very interesting work happening around the country with the ceremonies which don't include FGM, so having the kind of ensuring that the traditions are respected, all the initiation, all those kind of rites of passage happen, but without the cutting part of it. So, excuse, I think there's a really interesting debate, and I think it's really impressive that this is now something which is under discussion, because I know it has been it's still a highly sensitive topic, and it can be very taboo, but it's also very important that as a society people are discussing it and working out what works.
The issue of gender issues in the country, we have the GWE Act, the law that was passed by this government that supports women with political leadership, private sector positions as well, and political appointment. What's your assessment of a nation like ours, even though there are challenges, but we're positioning women, the number of women in parliament increased, and appointments in cabinet as well. What's your assessment as a woman yourself? What's your assessment of the roles of support we're giving to women in putting them in that leadership position?
Legislation is great, but I think just the old language there has highlighted some of there's still an underlying tension, because you're saying we're putting women there, and the things we've given to women. It shouldn't be given or putting. This is just, so it's not quite normalized yet, because it should just be.
Yeah, it should not be because we have a law.
No, I think that the law gives a good basis, but it's not like anyone is giving something to women. It's just women, this is my feeling, just occupying the place that they should. So it's not for anyone to give or take. It should just...
It should happen naturally.
It should just happen naturally, yeah. So everyone being judged on their merits and their capacity, so the best people are doing any kind of job. But I think Sierra Leone's got a fantastic track record on some very kind of progressive, positive thinking on that. So kind of a legislative basis is providing the foundation. And I think Sierra Leone has really been a kind of a leader in many of those areas.
Yes. So let's look at investment and the private sector in the things you've been doing. I know there's been investment conferences in the UK, the plans or programs that connect UK businesses in the UK with Sierra Leone. People from the UK investing here as well. I can recall when the foreign secretary came here, who has some ties to Sierra Leone, some years ago, signed some MOU with the government of Sierra Leone and on investments and investment programs. How far are we with that? What's the level of investment of UK British businesses from the UK in Sierra Leone?
So it's really going well. So James Cleverly, who was our foreign secretary under the last government, his mother was from Bow, is from Bow. So yes, he was really passionate about working with Sierra Leone. But now we've got a different government, but it's still that same interest and enthusiasm continues. So in October, we had a whole series of investment conferences, which was great. We had one in London that was standing room only. It was massively oversubscribed. All the kind of companies and the investors wanted to come and learn about the opportunities and and understand what the sort of business would be like in Sierra Leone. And then we did another one back here, working with the FAO and the government, specifically looking at investment into agriculture. And again, we're seeing lots and lots of interest in the opportunities in Sierra Leone. So I think we've been able to build on that MOU, and we have a program called Invest Alone, where we've been supporting, I think, about 250 local companies grow and get ready to attract international investment, because you need to have lots of I suppose your sort of accounting standards, be able to kind of show a sort of history of how your business is running, kind of governance structures. There's quite a lot of bureaucracy to get in place to be able to be sort of investment ready. And in the investment conference in London, we saw 2 deals signed. We've got plans to have lots more kind of investor inward trips for people to come and look at different sectors, maybe do a trade mission. So I think we see there's lots and lots of opportunities. And
one of the area of concern is also how do you connect small and medium enterprises, SMEs, especially those that are run by women, young women.
Yeah.
That's a sector that is growing in the country. How do you connect them with the markets in the UK? How do we, one of the conversations I can recall with the former foreign secretary was how do we get our products, how do we export to the UK? Like you said, our connection are historical. How do we get access to the UK market?
Yeah, no, it is challenging, because sometimes, just sort of meeting all the conditions. So there's 2 aspects of it. I think one, we have a kind of a trade agreement which Sierra Leone can access, which is duty free. So we will sort of imports into the UK. So that can make products quite competitive. And so we have got people, whether it's shipping cashew nuts or some of those kind of sort of locally made products. That's happening. We can boost the volume, though. I think that's the kind of next stage to go with that. And then we have development finance organisation called British International Investment, and they tend to do the really big investment deals. But we know that actually a lot of businesses aren't really at that size yet. So they've been working with EcoBank they've loaned money to EcoBank to enable EcoBank to sort of loan on to smaller size or medium-sized businesses. We're not yet at the small producers, but I think that's where we want to look at what particularly the kind of trade opportunities, so it's really the buying and selling more between our 2 countries.
Is it about policies or quality assurance and all of that?
I think it's a range of things. It's people knowing what is out there. So for people in Sierra Leone to understand how to sell and distribute into the UK. There's always things about all the kind of efficiencies about the kind of the trade, so making sure that it's as smooth as possible to do importing goods in and exporting. So, the kind of customs clearance procedures, having as much as you can do kind of online and in advance to really make things move fast, particularly when you're selling commodities like perishable foodstuffs, things like that. That's, it's got to have you've got to make sure you've got the systems in place. And sometimes there's always a kind of quality dimension, making sure that everything meets the standards.
So it's on our end now in doing these things that will get us to able to access the market, because the point is the Sierra Leonean community in the UK is huge. You have a lot of Sierra Leoneans there, and it's kind of very easy markets that is closer that we can tap into and export some of our goods.
Yeah, and you've got we've got Sierra Leone restaurants. We've got there's this really big and vibrant community. So I think there's definitely a market for Sierra Leone products amongst Sierra Leoneans, but also more widely, I think. But that's also a great basis as well for boosting trade, because you've got these sort of ambassadors for Sierra Leone all around the country.
We're talking about Sierra Leonean community in the UK. Let's talk about migration and traveling. We see countries in the West mostly, talking the issue about migration is becoming it's becoming very topical. Countries are closing on and everyone should be where they are, cutting down on the number of people who are coming in. How are new policies, migration policies, affecting Sierra Leone as a country, even though generally it could be Africa, but Sierra Leone specifically?
So we want to see legal and safe migration. So I think we really want to encourage lots of students. We know there's lots and lots of people traveling because of family reasons. What we're really worried about is people taking the illegal routes because it's so dangerous for people. I mean, you hear horrific stories every day pretty much about human trafficking or people thinking they're getting some kind of job offer and actually it's, they end up getting trafficked into sort of prostitution, organ trafficking. I mean, absolutely awful things. People getting stuck in the desert. It's been going on for years, obviously, and it's so highly dangerous. So I think we're keen to see that there are routes for people who want to go and work, study, do whatever. I mean, it's obviously the sort of working aspect. It's always based on kind of skills and qualifications. I think every country is quite specific on that. But sort of legal migration, absolutely. Illegal migration is what we're really wanting to crack down on.
Do we have specific cases of Sierra Leoneans involving in this, or we have Sierra Leoneans who are due to be deported or who are involved in illegal migration issues or trafficking, as you mentioned, people being taken in these places to do, say, their jobs for you, but they get involved in prostitution or other things in the country?
Every now and again, there's one or two probably, but I mean, Sierra Leone's not on the list of worst offenders by any means. I think, I mean, because there's so many people going backwards and forwards all the time, and there's a huge number of Sierra Leone Brits as well. So, I mean,
we are not on any list of say their Sierra Leone.
I think sometimes people can be a little bit slow to come home, but they go legitimately mostly.
but they come back.
They come back if they need to come back, and then they go again.
Yeah. With all what is happening presently, there is this report about funding cuts to Sierra Leone. Globally, but it's affecting Sierra Leone as well. And what's the projection? How do we? Where do we stand with these funding cuts? I was reading a report which says it will affect mostly the UK support to gender issues, healthcare, and all of that.
So we're sort of nationally in the UK. We used to contribute a larger share of our GDP to international development spending, and now we have, for a temporary period, reducing it to kind of 0.3% of GDP because we're spending more on defence because of local sort of insecurity and the situation in Ukraine, and I think there's a big European push to increase defence spending. So that has unfortunately got a cost, and we've had to find the money elsewhere. So we are tightening our budgets across the piece. So that's one of the reasons we really want to work with the private sector, because we're looking at how we can help actually grow the Sierra Leone economy so that actually there's more revenue, there's more jobs being created, there's more tax being paid into the government to enable the government to then have more leeway in terms of financing all of the social dimensions. So we're in the middle of sort of designing and working out how we're going to kind of work in future. But we want to work more with the kind of technical assistance, expertise, and we probably won't be in a position to do some of the really big, large-scale kind of infrastructure development that we have done. So I think we're really proud of what we've done, for example, in health over the last 20-plus years. We've had a program called Saving Lives, which is now in its kind of third iteration, and we've done a lot of work with the hospitals, with the whole medical community, working particularly on infant and maternal mortality and helping drive those figures down. So I think a lot of it was always going to be sort of transitioning, because you would sort of work for a period and then we want to sort of hand back to the relevant authorities to be leading on that. What we are going to be doing is still supporting some of the big multilateral funds like Govt and some of those programs. So we've put in sort of well over $1 billion sterling, I think nearly 2 billion in that. So we're going to try and work a lot through those multilateral organisations which are tackling tuberculosis, HIV, malaria, all those, providing vaccines, all of that globally. So we're still going to be a big contributor to that, and and all those organisations are working, in every country really where it's affected and there's a need. So we're going to be working differently. We're still going to be very much interested in gender and women's rights and tackling violence against women and girls. That's a priority for our Yvette Cooper, who's our foreign minister at the moment. She's really strong on that one. And I think, we recognise sort of the importance of global health obviously MPOX has been the most recent, and it's fantastic that that's now declared finished in Sierra Leone. But, we've all had COVID, there's been sort of Ebola, all of those global health emergencies. I think we recognise the importance of working together to make sure that everyone's got strong enough systems to react.
So is this cut a direct cut to the individual programs you're supporting in the country, or to organizations or to governments? Is that what you're saying?
So we are cutting, as the UK, we have reduced our entire global budget that we have for spending on international development, and then we're allocating it differently. So we will have a much smaller allocation that we can use bilaterally in Sierra Leone. So we're going to have to be quite smart about how we use it to make sure that whatever we do has the most impact. So it will be small amounts of money, but hopefully we can bring expertise, we can bring people, we can sort of develop different partnership ways of working. And then we're hoping to use that sort of multilateral system to really have lots of effect and leverage. Some of the programs we were doing, so some of the programs we were working, for example, around energy, infrastructure, those were coming to a natural close anyway. We had work in health and education, which we were expecting to carry on longer, and we're actually going to be sort of downsizing some of those programs.
It means reduction in money being sent to the country.
It does. It is a reduction in the money that we at the High Commission have control of, but I think it's going to make us work hard to make sure we're tapping into the money available elsewhere in the system. Okay. So a lot comes through. I mean, we kind of contribute a lot of money to the World Bank, the IMF, all the UN agencies, all of that. There's a lot of other aspects.
There is this £35 million grant for maternal and newborn health, which in a report I was reading is also part of the amounts that will be cut. Can you confirm that?
I don't think that's necessarily the right numbers. We're not. I haven't got all the numbers with me, but a lot of these programs are already part way through. So there's maybe an initial allocation. Lots of the money's already been spent. We're carrying on next year slightly smaller than we'd initially planned, and then we'll be kind of winding the programs down in 2027.
Is this about reminding us that you need to cut down the reliance on donor aid, or the UK supports other countries as well? Is it about telling us you need to look inwardly in raising funds and supporting your own programs?
I mean, I think that is true in general, and I think every sovereign country wants that in the long term. It's you want that independence to take your own decisions. You don't want to have money coming in from elsewhere. I think it is always challenging when you have a lot of donors in country anyway, because everyone is trying to do the best, but we'll have different reporting systems. You'll be kind of working. You've got an extra challenge making sure everything is coordinated, and you don't really want the sort of ministries working as program managers. They should be developing the policy and implementing that for the nation. So, I mean, ideally, I think every country wants to be in a position where you can sort of wave goodbye to the donors, because the revenue is
there. The consideration also is that how could this, as a developing nation, how could this affect especially women or girls in remote communities where you've been working? I've seen you've been to Falaba, you've been to Koinadugu, you've seen firsthand how your projects and programs you're supporting through local NGOs creating impact in the lives of people, and it seems they at the receiving end, this will create some impact negatively on.
I mean, we're in the process of working out how we do it now. So we still have some funds, we're not, and we're certainly not any less interested and keen to support and work with all the people in Sierra Leone. So I think we're just going to look at what we can do which will have the most impact, how we can really continue to support and do the things which are going to make a real difference.
So what will be the focus of the UK support to Sierra Leone, the government and the people? What would be the new focus with this court?
So what we really want to be focusing is on, see what we can do to support sustainable, inclusive growth across the country. And that means quite a lot of things. So some of it is the kind of private sector work I was talking about, how we can work with companies. Some of it is we've been working, for example, with the NRA, helping them work on the kind of the whole tax policy to make sure that the country is able to collect all of the taxes due. It just sort of helping improve some of the systems which will generate more money into the wider economy. And some of that will be about some of the, I suppose, what's called human capital development. So still in the education, how do we make sure that young people are growing up with the skills that they need to then go into the job market or become entrepreneurs or be able to contribute to society. And obviously health and public health is a really important sort of foundation for that as well.
Let's look at governance generally. Your support. I know the UK government strongly supports press freedom, which is one of the things we've been talking about. As a country, we proudly review the Public Order Act, expunge and remove the area where journalists are being jailed for doing their work. But also we have the cyber law, which the media sludge itself and other people have been raising concerns about. What's your position of media independence and press freedom in this country?
So I think, the role of a media in every country is vital. It's so important because it's a way that the population can see and know what's going on whether it's in society or what parliamentary discussion or what government's been doing. So I think the role and the freedom of the press is a real kind of fundamental of society. We're always keen to kind of listen and hear from the journalists. The laws are there. We as a foreign country can't really sort of opine or intervene on that kind of thing. But I think we're very keen to support and encourage the media sector to be responsible, investigative reporting, to really get under the skin and get into the details of stories and make sure the public kind of have that information. So I think we are keen to support the media sector.
Yeah, we've seen that, and especially where laws are being used against some of us. Behind the scenes have been getting those supports, we could say openly. But in March of this year, you met with the Inspector General of Police, and I just wanted to look at the issue of law enforcement and the rule of law. There's this big issue, this big conversation about drugs, drug trafficking, and the situation of drugs in this country. There's been reports of how people, to some extent, import things that are used to produce drugs, kush, or say, in this country from the UK, from other countries as well. What are your engagements with the government and law enforcement agencies with regards to drugs-related issues as well, and as well respecting rights of people?
No, I think the drugs issue is a real worry, and particularly when you see the impact kush has on people. You see them sort of lying in the street. It's truly awful, and it really breaks families, and it's just horrific. So we've been having lots of really interesting conversations about. I think there was a report which was talking about whether ingredients were coming from the UK. I think the main one was something called marshmallow leaf. And we've had some conversations with the Chief Minister and the Chief of Police and other authorities about that, because it is a legal product. It can be used for sort of herbal tea as well. So if that is a problem that it's coming in, I think we need to sort of have a discussion about what is a reasonable, whether it's There needs to be some kind of limitation on the quantities that are coming in if it looks suspicious. But whilst it's a legal product, we can't really do something about it, because if someone is placing an order and someone is shipping it, there's no rules or regulations which say that you can't. But we are certainly very keen, if there is anything illegal which comes in from the UK, to have all that information and then give it to our police to then investigate and follow up. I think because where there's networks or these rings, that we need to really work together internationally to try and crack them.
Is the UK government concerned? About a week ago, I had a conversation with the head of the EU delegation that came in country, and he was saying they're concerned about reports of Sierra Leone being used as a transshipment hub, for drug trafficking. He mentioned cocaine specifically. Is the UK government concerned about things like this?
Yes, very much, very much. And we've long seen this as a problem because of the proximity of West Africa to Latin America in terms of the sort of sea route. It is a short stretch, and so West Africa, quite a lot of the coast has been used as a transshipment route. And at the moment, there seems to be an awful lot of talk about Sierra Leone as being a bit of a hub in that. So, absolutely, it's a concern because it's not. Even if the consumption is largely elsewhere, the impact of having that kind of trade happening here is really destabilizing, because you've got a lot of illegal, illicit money coming in. You start having money laundering. You have people who are then being able to buy off or just distribute that money into society, which is really, you can't control it.
So you've also visited the ports, What kind of support or collaboration is the UK government giving to Sierra Leone? The capacity to security intelligence and to be able to monitor our waters is also very important. What kind of collaboration or support is the UK government giving to Sierra Leone, to address challenges like this?
Yeah. So we've been working on, I think most recently we've provided two boats to improve the sort of, I think it's maritime domain awareness. So the idea is that it's going to be accompanied by a drone, so the drone's coming, which can then survey what's out there, and then the boats can go direct to where there's an issue. The EU is doing something very similar, so we're working together on that kind of one.
Does that include intelligence sharing or capacity?
There's systems when there is something to share. I suppose it's.
Okay. Let's move to governance issues. I know you've been, part of the tripartite when it came, the Agreement for National Unity. There's been, these continued engagements with development partners and the government and the opposition as well on progress being made. So far, what's your assessment with implementation of the recommendations of from the tripartite and the Agreement for National Unity?
So I think this was such an important process because after the last elections, and then that was really the basis for bringing people together and then agreeing a way forward for the next elections in 2028. So there's the whole long list of 80+4 recommendations there. The meetings have been ongoing. I think what I think will be really important is the spirit in which this happens in the next 2 years. So, there is the practical, technical steps, which I think will improve sort of transparency and credibility and trust between partners. So actually seeing those steps. So there's lots of, I know the Attorney General it's got sort of a package of legislative measures he's going to present to Parliament soon, so that's the kind of the technical bit. But I think it's also really important that this process can support the kind of a spirit of positive cooperation, because basically all political parties have the same interest in any kind of election. But ultimately it's to allow the population to choose who they want to represent and lead them in any country. So, a party can be in power, out of power, but I think everyone needs to be able to play on a level playing field and let the best man or woman win in each time. So I think the spirit that that it doesn't become overly politicized and that it really remains focused on actually how to get to the next elections in an atmosphere which is, there's electoral competition, but it doesn't spiral into any kind of violence or, tensions don't bubble over. This is politics. No one should be losing their lives about it. It's fundamentally about delivering for the population and providing them with the services and the conditions to be able to live and thrive and prosper. And that's what politics should be about. So,
yeah, I'm sure you've been taking stock. You've been involved in some of the engagements. What's we're seeing as a media? I've interviewed people here about it. There seems to be this ongoing, issue between the opposition and the government on one hand and the tripartite implementation committee. There are a lot of disagreements, even at this stage where there are engagements ongoing. With your own assessment, is it something that will lead us to an election where we'll not have the same issues that keeps coming up, in reports that will cause other tripartite, if I could say?
I think there's still 2 years to go. So, depending on the date of the next elections, precisely. But there's time. There is time.
But it's speed, like you said. There needs to be that
but there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done because there's a lot of preparation. The ECOWAS rules is that you shouldn't make any kind of fundamental changes in the 6 months prior to elections in terms of laws and legislation. So that cuts down the time available to get it done. I think my message is always when I'm talking to whether it's sort of opposition or government is just to really try and work together and work try and build to as much as possible some kind of atmosphere of trust and collaboration and this is for the country. It's not a party political battle. It shouldn't be a party political battle.
Are you satisfied with the process so far?
I think there's still a lot to do. I think
in what aspects?
I think there's, some of for example, the legislative changes have been drafted, but they haven't been gazetted yet. They're about to be gazetted. So, and that's when everyone will start to be able to see them, and you start to have the actual wider debate. There will be lots of work about just the kind of logistics and organisation, the Electoral Commission. Still, I think need some of those legislative changes to happen before the appointment. I think that's the plan before the appointments of a new commissioner. So there's quite a lot of processes which will take time, and things need to move quite swiftly now. I think to make sure that those deadlines are met. It can't be sort of all last minute because that will. Maybe some of not the best decisions get made when they're done in haste.
So, what kind of support are you providing, to ensure that this whole process is well implemented and inclusive as well? That is what, I agree with you. How do we get the people to buy into this and believe this is a process that will lead us to an election that will not become violent, cause confusion and lack of trust as well? What kind of support are you providing? Is the UK government providing at this stage?
So we're doing a lot of talking. I think it's primarily a lot of talking, and then working together with the other international partners as well, just to make sure that we're all fairly consistent in what we're saying, and trying to kind of just push and nudge the process forward.
And you see the commitment?
I think, everyone wants to get to the elections, but this is ultimately, I think also everyone is a politician a lot of the time in this process. So, it's normal that everyone's also got one eye on the, how's this going to mean? What's this going to mean? What's this going to feel like when they are campaigning?
So I know, because for me, I've been saying that here, we have an opportunity now to address the challenges we've all been seeing in our elections. If you read reports from election observers, it's almost the same with every other election. And if we can't address the issues now, and like you say, we rush it at the tail end before the elections, then we go into another election that will lead us to another tripartite possibly, or disagreement after the elections, and we have to sit
again and watch as things go around. The commitment in implementing this and addressing the problem is very important, but also as moral guarantors, as development partners who are supporting us with different things, it's important that the public or the government or those involved, the politicians, understands what your position is. If you're not satisfied with what is happening, maybe you can be the voice that will call out people where people will not say, no, they're leaning to this political party or this other political party or individuals. And this is the time we could do that, actually.
So I think you're absolutely right when you say about all the electoral observer reports over the years. So there's no surprises. I think everyone knows exactly what the priorities are in terms of what changes are going to be important to make, and how everyone is going to need to sort of behave and work around the next elections. Because it doesn't have to be that way. It can, you can have a election where, someone wins, someone else concedes, and, everyone gets on, and different parties will be controlling, have different stakes in parliament or sort of local government, and all of that should and can coexist well. I think at the moment, I would say definitely our approach is to have lots of those conversations in private, and probably some people think I'm a bit of a nag and sigh when they have to pick up my phone call kind of thing. But I think we just keep on having those conversations.
Yeah. Well, yes, I know the diplomats will have the side conversations and how things go. But, most times the Sierra Leonean public, when it comes to these things, they rely mostly on what's the position of development partners, because they believe, the people believe our politicians, our governments always, we listen to whatever your positions are, or you could push them to some point on behalf of the people and the interest of the people. But we are all hopeful. We are hopeful that things will change and get better. But quickly, I want to ask about the civic space. It's important. It's part of the recommendations and the reports as well. How do we ensure that we have, this very independent civic space where civil society, the media, will collaborate, hold people accountable, support governments where to support them? What are your assessments of it so far? There's been reports which has shown that it's dwindling. A lot of people are scared to come out to speak because they've been tagged one, or laws can be used to arrest them, and the support, where they're getting support, they've been stifled of them as well. What's your assessment of the civic space?
Yeah, no, I think there's some really dynamic and really well-informed people, groups, individuals, working in that space. I do find it really perturbing, and also when I speak to journalists, the same thing, when you hear people are sort of getting, threatening phone calls, or, just a friend phoning, sort of hinting at a threat. It's very, it's hard to pin down in a way. So you can see how it scares people and makes them very nervous, and there's not a great deal that they can do with that. And I think that is very, very kind of regrettable that kind of sort of bullying, threatening, intimidating behaviour can happen wherever it emanates from. I mean, it's hard to sort of to track. So I think civic space, like the media, I think it's really important that it's protected and able to flourish and thrive and play a responsible role, because again, it's very, very similar, I think, to the media, that it's those are people who are kind of getting in depth into issues, can champion causes, and can really kind of raise issues in the profile of issues and concerns, and sort of push to, I think, every government needs to be sort of pushed a little bit to make sure that they are meeting their kind of manifesto pledges, or they're being held accountable to do what they have promised to do for the people, because ultimately, it's the people of Sierra Leone who are at the heart of everything.
Yeah, and it's becoming a point where civil society and the media will rely on the foreign missions to, provide some support or protection for them. But what the assurance with the cuts we have now, what the assurance with support to especially organizations that's into, ensuring that there's this civic conversation, dialogue, that has to do with governance, elections, and rights issues as well. What the assurance to that?
I think we'll always try and sort of create a kind of space or platform or try and help bring people together. I think that sometimes is the biggest role that we can play. It's a sort of convening power to try and help build some of those networks and a lot of that work which is happening already organically, make sure that people are connecting up kind of, that sort of strength in numbers and sort of common issues. So I think we will continue to do what we can to particularly on specific issues, around sort of gender, violence against women and girls. I think that, that's going to be an ongoing theme of our work that we really want to. We recently had an event on women, peace and security, and bringing together lots of women working in the kind of security services and potential going out to work in the peacekeeping operations and some of the kind of more traditional gender champions. And actually it was just really, really interesting to be able to bring everybody together into one room and help them sort of make their own connections and look at opportunities to collaborate and work together because they've got sort of shared passion for common causes.
Let's take some messages. We have some of them. Some are questions, so definitely it's good to take them. This one say, Lamona, please ask her about the IELTS system. Sierra Leoneans have been subjected to take the IELTS exams before migrating to the UK. Our system of education purely done in English since kindergarten stage, and we're being degraded for proof of proficiency, and that is affecting a lot of people from traveling to study in the UK. This other one say people are being denied visas who are genuinely applying to get visas, and that is why they're using the wrong routes. You need to address that, especially people who want to travel for pleasure and medical. The UK government has been here and they've been supporting us, but when it comes to the past elections, they've not been very determined to let our politicians understand that elections should be free and fair. Until after the elections, they invest in tripartite and agreement for unity. Madam, as a Sierra Leonean, one thing I and millions of others will want you to do for us is to stop allocating monies directly to our government officials. That is a recipe for corruption. Instead, find strategic ways that will benefit the people directly. Sierra Leone should not have issues with UK government cutting down aid to Sierra Leone. We need to look inwardly and raise our own revenue so that we can invest in ourselves. I'll take one more. This one says, please ask her about when is the next call for the Chevening program and what are the other opportunities for Sierra Leoneans who want to go and study in the UK to be part of to benefit from these opportunities. I've been applying for several times, but I've not been able to be selected. I will take those questions.
Okay. So IELTS, before I came here, I was in Kenya, and we had exactly the same question. Why? So it's something the universities want. They just want to have that basis. I think the one improvement is now that it can all be taken online. So it used to be quite tricky because you'd have to wait and then come to one sort of exam center. So I think they've tried to make it a little bit smoother. So hopefully people can just sorry about that, but it's Sierra Leone is not the only country. It's part of the criteria, and Sierra Leone is not the only English-speaking country where people sort of tear their hair out about it. So it's certainly a complaint I've held a lot before. On visas, I think the mistake a lot of people make is that they just don't provide enough supporting evidence. So I think what they need to bear in mind is that, they know why they're traveling, they know who they are, but they're putting in a dossier which is then being reviewed by someone sitting in the UK who's just looking at the papers they've got in front of them, and they've got to make a sort of decision on that. So I often get people saying, I didn't get my visa, or my friend didn't get their visa. And I say, but did you tell them like how much you earn and you know what or did you, no? And you know, and so they miss out. I think my general advice is to really make sure that the story and the rationale is all really clear. So where you're going, why you're going, that it's affordable, you know, just provide, if you're going to a wedding, make sure you put in a copy of the invitation, all of that kind of stuff. Really prepare the documents properly. And if we do refuse visas, there's always a reason. So there's always like a paragraph in the refusal explaining, and that's usually because, you know, people haven't shown evidence of something. And if they have that evidence, that, you know, next time they apply, they just be really, really, really thorough. I think that's my...
Yes, someone asked about the other opportunities.
So for study, so the next wave of Chevening will open in August next year, and then the other scheme is the Commonwealth Scholarship Scheme as well. So, but it's, yeah, if you just Google Chevening or Commonwealth Scholarships, there's lots of information online about that when they come back home. So those are the kind of criteria in the statements to really think about.
And if you keep applying and you're not selected, you should
keep
continue.
applying. Yeah, just keep applying. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
What do you look for? What the criteria? What are the things that, you know, people should have before they apply? Because if you don't have what it takes as well, you keep applying. You'll keep blaming that you're not being selected, but you don't have what.
So what I love about our Chevening scholarships is people can genuinely study anything. You know, it's any kind of master's subject. So, but what is really important is your motivation for doing it, why you think doing it in the UK and doing that particular course is going to make a difference. So really kind of research the course, know why you want to go to that city, to that university to do that. You know, what's the content of the course that you really want to do, and this whole kind of vision for leadership and future plans. So think of like, okay, 5 years, 10 years after graduating, what's the kind of dream? And because a lot of the time it's people are, you know, they've maybe been quite active in civil society, for example, and then they're going to come back and be able to take that to another level or use the kind of skills they've gained and the networks they've established to then sort of take everything up a notch. And the networking bit is one of the big opportunities, but also I think that's a criteria that we're interested in. Like, you know, how can people build on that global network to really increase their voice and have more impact? So definitely apply. You know, there's no limit to how many times people apply.
Yeah, there is no cut-off line. You can apply as much as you can, and it'll be that time. And someone mentioned about, you know, supporting projects that directly impact the people instead of, you know, giving it to government or directly. But I think that is what the UK government does, right?
Yes.
Support programs.
Yeah, and particularly, for example, with work with gender, we've been doing that. We've been really trying to get to the kind of grassroots organisations to make sure that they have some funds to then be able to do what they, you know, what they're designed to do, essentially.
Yeah. There is one question here from Abakar Jallo. It says, please ask the Commissioner if Britain will pay the reparations to Sierra Leone. There's this conversation about reparation and all of that. I was just reading the other day, the Ghanaian president was saying, was demanding that, you know, countries should pay reparation back to African countries. Is that a conversation that we're having?
I think it's a conversation which is starting globally. I mean, the Caribbean has been very, I think there's, you know, they're really championing that conversation. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think it's very interesting that it's starting.
And it's legitimate.
It's definitely a conversation to be had. It is a conversation to be had, and we've also had lots of interesting. I mean, I think the French have been very forward-leaning on, for example, returning artifacts, cultural artifacts to different countries. So yeah, it's a debate which I think is beginning to take root.
And someone was talking about how do we have people like the British High Commission and raising concerns about governance issues before the elections and not wait until after elections, you know, ringing the bell, raising the alarm and the red flags before the election so we could resolve them and not go into, not election specifically, but governance issues that might
that have the tendency to affect elections. You know, someone was saying, let me read that message. It was a long message, but let me see if I can pull it up. It says, the UK stood by while Sierra Leone elections have been rigged or dictated by foreign power for decades without doing nothing. Matter of fact, the 2023 elections is the worst ever seen in the world, stolen by this present government with impunity. And I think international partners should raise the alarm before the elections rather than just wait after elections.
I mean, there's something about the whole sort of nature of what diplomatic relations are and how we work. So we will work with all different, obviously we have a kind of government-to-government relationship, but then we have a kind of wider interest in being able to understand and know about the dynamics of what's happening in the country, and so we'll talk to everybody. But there is a line where, Sierra Leone is a sovereign country, so we need to be careful and respect that. And a lot of conversations that we have, as we said before, will be private conversations we'll be having, and we're not in the business, I think, of going out on on our sort of soapbox and talking about things too publicly. So I think there's a balance to be struck, but I think our effort is what we can do to support and encourage the tripartite process to really actually make a shift and to enable, if those recommendations are discussed and then implemented and adopted and then applied, that should provide a good basis for the next time round, and that each election actually should be more transparent, more fair, more free, more credible. I think that's the basis for making sure that people believe in democracy. And
one final question I'll take is from Olawumi Koka. She is saying, please ask why the UK government visa criteria is so rigid for Sierra Leoneans to migrate to UK whilst they are colonial masters. Mind you, most of our natural resources are in their hands, and I think Sierra Leoneans need the opportunity to travel and make their lives better.
So I think our visa regulations, it's all very transparent. So do the research if you want to apply. It's all on the sort of criteria people want. I think there are legal and legitimate ways to get a visa. Not everybody is going to get one, I think. People need to be going for their sort of stated purpose on the visa. But we're certainly, visas are available, and we're trying to get to a point where actually they're going to be e-visas. So we're trying to make the process lighter as well.
Okay, so we close in this conversation, but what seems very clear is, we still, relying on donor partners to support us as a developing nation. And there is this report of the court, but you've given some assurance that things will, the certain support you're giving will continue. What message do you want to leave with Sierra Leoneans, with your work here and what you're doing, the UK-Sierra Leone partnership? How will you ensure you continue to strengthen it, people to people and government to government?
I think you've got a really exciting country here. You've got a kind of young, dynamic population. You've got some huge challenges. You can see a lot of poverty, and you've suffered some pretty big knocks in the sort of last 20-odd years. But there's sort of amazing opportunities, and I think certainly there's a huge warmth in the relationship between UK and Sierra Leone. So we're very much, we're here. I want to see lots of those ties, and a kind of cultural, social, educational, professional. I want to see all of those develop and thrive. But I think each and every Sierra Leonean has a role to play in the future of this country and making it a great place to be.
Well, what you don't enjoy in a salon? You don't eat salon? Have you?
Yes, of course. I'm quite a big fan of cassava leaf stew. I think really? That's my current favorite.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's nice. Maybe you'll try lafidi. I don't know.
I haven't.
I should try and introduce you to lafidi. And maybe cream.
Yeah, cream I like.
You like?
Yeah.
The groundnut stew.
Yes, groundnut stew I do.
Okay.
But that makes you stout.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and
Maybe you'll send out, season greetings, a message to citizens.
Yeah. Hope everyone is enjoying the festive season. It seems hectic. This is going to be my first Christmas and New Year staying in Salon, and I'd heard about it, and now I'm seeing it. So stay safe, particularly on the roads. But I'm wishing everyone a very happy Christmas for those who are celebrating it, and a happy New Year.
So you staying here? For
Yeah,
the
I'm
holidays?
staying here.
This is your first.
It was my first time. My family's come out.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. So what we'll do is to hand over the bell to you. You'll ring this bell, and yes, just ring it for us. So usually we ask people to give message, about the drug situation, especially to our young people. I know there's several reports which indicates a lot of young people want to leave the country, but you have, like you mentioned, you have young people who are involved in drugs who have become addicted as well. But what's your message with the drug situation in the country?
We used to have a anti-drugs campaign in the UK, the line was just say no. So just don't start. Don't resist the temptation to try it. Don't be curious. It's not cool. It will destroy your life.
Thank you so much. It will destroy your life. Not even try them. Don't. Have you learned any Creole word?
Small.
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 Well, these guys, Amazara and others, they need to do more than for teach you some plenty Creole. How the body?
The body fine, thank you.
Body fine. Okay. Well, thank you so much, madam. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's a pleasure. This is your first time coming here. Hopefully, we'll have you in subsequent editions to discuss further about the UK Sierra partnership and support you're giving to the people and government of this country. Thank you so much. We're taking a short break. I'll come back shortly. Continue for Stay With We. This is the Truth Morning Devotion.